Y Combinator program ends in demo day, where you get to pitch investors and go on and raise your seed round. And 3 days before demo day, we get a letter from the FAA that says essentially our entire business is illegal and we have to shut down immediately.
Hello and welcome to DeFire, the podcast that brings you that crypto fire you desire. My name is Jonas, and today on the show you hear the story of Matt Voska. Matt is a Y Combinator alumni, entrepreneur, pilot and digital nomad, currently living and working in beautiful Rio de Janeiro. That's how the locals pronounce it. And I've been there the last 3 months as well. I went to record this conversation at Matt's bachelor pad in Rio, and I was blown away by the beautiful view his living room has to offer. I recorded a short video and posted it on the DeFire Instagram account. Go check it out, defire.money. But back to the program. Matt has launched his first startup at Y Combinator. It was an Uber for small airplanes, but more recently he had made a splash in the world of DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. He has co-founded the Orange DAO, a DAO exclusively for Y Combinator alumni just like him. And we're also talking about his latest startup called Origami that helps web3 companies to start their own DAOs. So buckle up, but before we start, a quick word from our sponsors. Let's quickly address our sponsor today. CryptoValley.jobs is a job board where engineers, designers, analysts, traders, and community builders can find cool crypto jobs. Full disclosure, I run this job board as a side project of this podcast. So if you are looking for a job or you want to advertise an open position, please go and visit CryptoValley.jobs. And while you're there, make sure to sign up on the email list so you're always informed when new jobs are posted on the platform. That's CryptoValley.jobs. And now let's start the show.
Cessna 649er20 is ready for takeoff, runway 24.
How would you introduce yourself, like for the people listening out there?
I'd say I'm a technologist, someone who likes to build technology. I'm a bit of an adventurer. I like to explore and do different things, and I love to fly. I'm a pilot.
And you're from the US, and currently we are recording here in Rio in your beautiful apartment with an amazing view. Tell us a little bit the background. How did you come from Chicago, right, where you grew up, to Rio? What was your journey?
Yeah, I grew up in Chicago, and all my friends stayed in Illinois and in the state for university, and there were very few that actually left. And I kind of wanted to get out. I was in this a smallish suburban town of Chicago, so I went to Boston for university, and being there, being in the hype of people starting companies, I had friends who were getting offers after their freshman year to join a pre-IPO startup. It was really exciting. And so seeing that entrepreneurship, that's what made me really want to start a company, was all that excitement. So it was shortly after that I started FlightNow in my second year of university. And when we got into Y Combinator, I ended up dropping out of university and we moved to California. And then I spent the next 5 years there.
So what did you study?
Well, I was studying computer engineering, but I don't think I got into any of those classes after just a year and a half.
And then while you were studying, you were infected by this entrepreneurship bug, and you were saying, hey, I have an idea. I want to get into Y Combinator.
We just had an idea then, right? Honestly, it was to solve my problem. I wanted to go flying, and it was really expensive. As a broke college student, I couldn't afford to go rent a plane. But I had friends who wanted to come with, and so we could split the costs legally. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to run out of friends who can go flying, so why don't I create a website, and then anyone on the internet can come flying with me. So it was to solve my own problem.
Like flying with you as in as your co-pilot, or flying with you like going places?
It was more leisure. Yeah. So a Rio example would be like Rio to Angra, or New York to the Hamptons, or to Martha's Vineyard, right? So these are different types of trips that you can do that are short distance, relatively short, an hour or two, and they're not easily accessible by car or commercial planes. So this is where a small private plane, it's really easy to get there.
Yeah. Is it just like a propeller plane? How many people can fit in such a plane?
Yeah, we're talking like a 4-seater Cessna or Piper. It's single engine, propeller driven. They were small planes. Yeah, yeah.
What would be something you say, like a commando or something? Let's give some audio touch, you know, like some pilot talk.
I don't know. Let's see. Cessna 649 is ready for takeoff, runway 24.
All right. I only know Houston, we have a problem.
Yeah, hopefully I'm not saying that ever.
It seems like, you know, like such a dream for every kid to become a pilot, but few actually become a pilot. How do you become a pilot?
When I was young, when I was like 10 years old, my uncle had a small 2-seater plane. And he took me up once, and I'll never forget that day. That was like, you know, getting to sit side by side in the pilot's seat and fly up with the clouds. That really changed everything for me. And ever since that day, I wanted to become a pilot.
Oh, wow.
And I never flew again until I was 16, and I got to go on some flight at a local airport. And I was like, wait a second, I'm 16. I could start to learn to fly now. So I started working. I got a job as like a busboy at a restaurant and saved up money for a year, and then went out and got my license. And so at 17, I learned to fly, and it's such a fun hobby. You know, it's really special when you're just up there cruising with the clouds. There's really nothing like it.
I can imagine, yeah. And then you became a pilot, and then suddenly you figured out there should be something where I can share costs, where other people fly with me.
Well, the problem was where I grew up, it was really quite cheap to rent a plane. There, I was able to afford it as a working high school student. But when I went out to university in Boston, the Boston prices were like almost 4 times as much to rent a plane.
What are the costs? Is it usually like fuel, or is it just to rent the plane itself?
So they call it a wet rental, where it's you get the plane for the hour and all the fuel is included. So, you know, in my hometown back then, this is 2011, it was about $65 an hour, 65 US, to rent a plane, a 2-seater, you know, a little small one. Yeah, that was it. And then in Boston, it was like almost $150 an hour. So, you know, it was certainly a lot more expensive there. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And then you were like, hey, I want to get into YC. I have this idea for the company. I heard the term Uber for airplanes. This was kind of like the pitch.
Right. So, I mean, we were doing this as like a side project while we were still, you know, taking classes at university. And we actually got reached out to by Shark Tank in the US, and they wanted us to come on the show.
But wait, but first you had to do something that they reach out to you.
We made a website, and we presented it like a local school fair, basically. And then some tech blog wrote about us. They must have seen us at this fair. They wrote a story about us, and then from that, Shark Tank reached out.
They do such active sourcing.
Yeah, I didn't know this either. But yeah, they reached out and said they wanted to have us on the show. So that was obviously like a super exciting moment that our thing became, you know, just a side project to something real.
Did you go on Shark Tank?
So when we got accepted into Shark Tank, they're like, all right, sign these contracts and we'll come out and start filming you. And it was around the same time that we had applied to Y Combinator. So we're like, okay, let's see what YC says, and then, you know, we'll sign these. But, you know, we kind of knew that we weren't going to get into YC.
You knew?
I mean, we're like 19 years old. We don't know what we're doing.
You knew that you were not going to get into YC?
We just assumed we were not going to get in. Like, that was not even a remote possibility. Like, they're like way up here, and, you know, we're just a couple kids, you know. We didn't see that as a realistic thing. But then they called us in for an interview. So we flew from Boston to San Francisco for this 10-minute interview.
Did you fly with one of your...
No. We flew commercial.
Okay.
And we flew out for it, and the day of the interview was my 20th birthday, and they gave me a call that night and said, hey, you know, we love what you're doing. We want you to, you know, drop out of school, move to California, and we want to invest.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And wow. Okay, that's crazy. I mean, how did that feel? Let's marinate a little bit in this moment.
That was really exciting. That
20
was like,
years old.
Best birthday ever. Best birthday ever. Yeah.
And who called? Is it like one of the big guys there?
One of the partners, Kat Manilak. So yeah, she's one of the partners at YC, and I remember she called and said, you know, we want you to join the program.
That's crazy. I quickly want to go a little bit in YC, because just to give a little bit context, YC is one of the most prestigious Silicon Valley venture accelerators, right? Airbnb, Reddit, Dropbox.
Yeah.
Tons of famous startups come from them.
Right.
And it's like a 3 months program twice a year.
Right.
Where like around 400 companies enroll in a 3-month program where they perfect their pitch or like the work on their products. How you have been there? You tell
Sure.
me, how is it?
Yeah, there's a few different components to the program, but their big innovation of YC's innovation was this batched investments. So you're going through the program with lots of other people in the same stage as you are. Mm-hmm. So when we went through, it was like maybe 100 companies. Now I think they're up to around 400 per batch. And so you're all starting a company together, you're going through the same problems, and it's helpful to have someone that understands what you're going through and can help you through it. And then a lot of their partners, I think, well, all of their partners have started companies in the past, and they're very insightful. They have very good pattern recognition, so they can tell you, hey, we think you're going down a bad path here, here's why. Mm-hmm. You should try this, here's why. So a few components, right? It's the batches, right? You've got this network of people all in the same life cycle of your startup. Mm-hmm. Then you've got a group, so this smaller group, you get 2 YC partners who are assigned to that group. And so for us, it was like other marketplaces, right? So similar type companies that are probably going through really similar problems.
Yeah, okay.
And then every Tuesday, we would have a dinner with some famous entrepreneur who would come in and tell us their story. It'd be all off the record, and we could ask questions.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And you have to be there. It's 3 months. You go every day in. Maybe have a.
No. We generally only meet once a week. We just come in for those Tuesday dinners for the speaker, and every other week we'd come in a little bit earlier and do a group partner session for 3 months.
But they want to have you there. They want to have you in San Francisco.
They did at the time, yeah. I mean, COVID times are different. They definitely want to go back to that. I mean, that was like a really special time. You get to meet all these really smart people. It was kind of weird. We're going around the room and everyone's like, oh, dropped out of Stanford, like Harvard. I left Google and Facebook to start my thing, and we're like, oh, we're like college sophomores. We felt like the dumbest people in the room, hands down.
And were you also the youngest?
I think there was one other entrepreneur in our group who was 19 or 18, but yeah, it was pretty much just the few of us. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that was in 2014, correct?
That was in 2014.
And you said you're pretty sure you wouldn't get in at the time.
Yeah.
Do you remember
we didn't think so.
the pitch? What do you think made the difference? And how do you prepare for this very special? You get the invite.
Right.
You're excited. You want to go. You want to shine. What is preparation that you've done to convince them?
So we talked to a lot of YC alumni, and they gave us insight. They would grill us with questions. I'll remember one of them told us that if you get to the interview stage, you're basically in. They want you to come into the program, and they're just looking for red flags. And what he told us is our biggest red flags is, one, you guys are college students, so what's to say you're not just gonna keep working on this on the side if they give you money, right? They want to know that you're committed. And 2 was the legality. That was a big question for Flight Now is this even legal, right? Uber was running into all kinds of problems at the time. So on the aviation side of Uber, that could be very difficult. And so we told them, look, we're here to commit to this. We want to do this. I said, hey, but if we get investment, I'm dropping out of university. And on the legal side, one of my friends, her dad was one of the best aviation attorneys in the country. So she connected us, and we were working with him, and he said, look, based on the law at this time, this should be legal.
This should be legal.
This should be legal, yes. Yes, and there's tons of precedent for this to be legal. If I were your attorney, I would advise you that this is fine. So we told them that in the interview, and they accepted us.
And what are some questions? Is it just like what you and I would ask, or do they have something that stood out to you? It's like,
sure,
this guy thinks differently or looks at startups differently.
Well, they do a lot of questions like that in the interview or in the application process. So I think one of their famous ones are, what's a non-computer system that you've hacked in the past? So they want to look for people who are really resourceful and finding creative ways to solve things.
And what was your answer to that? Do you remember?
Yeah, so I was studying at Northeastern University in Boston. And, we're across the river from Harvard and MIT, but they always got the good speakers, right? They had all the cool people coming in. So I got onto their mailing list, and I would get notifications whenever they had a cool speaker coming. And I'd just bike over and pretend like I was a Harvard student and just walk right in. And that's where I actually got to see Paul Graham and Sam Altman, the two people who were running Y Combinator at the time, and that's what made me apply.
And how much of a product did you have at the time already? Did it feel like you just hacked your way into YC when they accepted you? Was there already a website that worked? Were there customers? Was there something going on, or was it more like a landing page with a form?
Basically a landing page with a form, yeah. But we had done some early flights, and they went well. People enjoyed them. They wanted to go again. So I think we had done maybe 10 flights in Boston by that point. And yeah, so we definitely were very early stage in the product there.
And really like people were going on the website to find a flight? Or
yeah,
was it more like, hey, I know Matt is going to do this? And
we had thousands of people sign up. It was well beyond my network at that time. Yeah.
And then you started to run into some issues, right?
Yes. So the Y Combinator program ends in demo day, where you get to pitch investors and go on and raise your seed round. And so we had practiced our pitch. I was ready to go on stage and give this presentation. And 3 days before demo day, we get a letter from the FAA that says essentially our entire business is illegal and we have to shut down immediately.
And you have to shut down immediately.
Effectively, yeah. They said they'd be enforcing any action that pilots were taking on our site. So, and it's a big risk, right? If you're a pilot and you were going to go on flight now, you could lose your license for that. So when someone's invested so much time and money into getting their license, they definitely don't want to lose it, especially over just to save $100 on their flight. So for that reason, we had to shut down, and it was tough. We were on like the top of the world, and everything just came crashing down.
And you said it earlier as well. Uber had, like this mentality of,
well, yeah. So when Uber faced legal issues, they could just say, okay, well, we won't go to Austin, Texas right now. We can go to every other city nearby. Their issues were at the city and county level. They didn't face issues on a national level. So for us, we'd have to go to Canada or Mexico or Europe to be able to do this. And no other country has the flight network that the US has. And for me, I wanted this for myself, right? My passion wasn't to launch this for people in Europe at the time. So we fought to try and make it happen in the US.
But let's go quickly back to these 3 days before the pitch. So you didn't even go out to do the pitch, or did you?
We didn't. No, because we shut down the site because we didn't want any pilots to face enforcement action from the FAA. And so now we've got a business that's been marked illegal by the federal government. Going to be difficult to raise money around that. So we decided not to pitch at demo day.
And what were your advisors telling you at the time?
They're like, wow, this is really tough timing. I'm sorry, guys. They were saying, look, maybe you should look for a new idea, try and come up with something new. Take some time and just relax. We were sitting down with Sam Altman, and he's like, look, you guys should just go to Tahoe for a few days and relax. That's tough. So it was a really hard time for sure. I was questioning everything.
You just
did I
dropped
do everything
out
wrong
of college You dropped off college for this.
Yeah, I'm thinking, should I just go back?
And you moved all your stuff. You
moved my entire life didn't have much of a life at that point, right? But yeah, moved everything to California.
And brought your friends along, I guess.
Right.
Some of them.
Right.
And they also were in the same situation.
They were in the same situation. So it was I had three other co-founders there. Two of them went back to university, and the other went back to work in Boston. So I was kind of all alone in California at the time.
And what did you do?
Yeah, it was really tough at first. I was thinking, I'm making the wrong decision by trying to stay out here. Should I just go back and finish my degree? But then I realized something, which is, okay, hold on. We just met all these people who they did go on to raise money at demo day, and they're looking to hire people. So I've got my choice of which company I want to join here. Is they're all looking for people to help grow their company. So I talked to a few friends and eventually joined Bannerman as effectively the first employee and as chief operating officer.
Yeah, I wondered what that is, Bannerman. What I found is it's a security company somehow, but with tech. I didn't do a deep dive on it, but what I understood is, I imagine it's like people sitting on their screens at home, but looking at security footage.
At the time, it was like Uber for security. So it made a lot of sense from Uber for planes to jump over to that. The goal was you could pull out your phone and order a security guard, and we could prevent something like the movie Taken from happening. That was the initial idea there. Yeah. But we had to pivot from that with some of the changing laws in California. So we employed all of our security guards. We had a force of like 300 security guards at the time. And eventually moved to a completely software model. So we create security management software.
But nothing connecting the camera, having some AI, seeing there's movement.
We started to build out some of that stuff, that's the direction we wanted to go down. But there were challenges along the way in preventing that from happening.
And you've been in that company since the beginning?
Well, I joined after, so they were in our same batch of YC. The company was like 6 months old when I joined.
Okay, yeah. And you've been there to see them growing, how they, and be a part of it, like how did they find their first customers, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm sure there must be some interesting learnings that you can take over to your next project. Yeah,
many war stories from that one of just, coming really, really close to the company dying, and we had to save it. There have been times when we've been 6 weeks of cash left and had to find our way out. Times where we've been sued by a major competitor in the space trying to kill the company. There's been all kinds of roadblocks as you're trying to grow a company.
Yeah,
that you have to get through.
And Y Combinator gave you 500,000 in the beginning, or just after demo day, or did you have some money still left from that, or how does it work when you resolve a company after 3 months?
Well, back then they only gave you 120,000. Now it's 500. Yeah. We had gotten some funding from YC and then a local VC in Boston. So that was like our pre-seed round for Flight Now. And we continued to try and fight the FAA decision after we had gotten shut down. So we appealed to one level below the Supreme Court. We made a Supreme Court appeal in the US. We tried to get different bills passed in the House of Representatives, the Senate. And actually just a couple of years ago, we finally got a bill passed that required a study to be done on ride sharing in aviation. But ultimately, it went nowhere. The FAA has a lot of power, and it's hard to overcome that. So they were able to just kill the bill and kill the report. So yeah, it kept going for a while on the advocacy side. But yeah, I think I don't see this happening in the US anytime soon.
And then you were at Bannerman, and recently you made waves with the Orange DAO.
Yeah, so
tell us the story there. What is the Orange DAO?
Orange DAO is a DAO for YC alumni who are getting into crypto or who are in Web3 now. And it honestly, it started as a couple WhatsApp groups. So we had a bunch of people in YC who were interested in Web3, they were getting into crypto. And so we had this WhatsApp group where we talked through things, help each other. But so many people were interested that we hit the cap of people you can have in a WhatsApp group. It's 250. And so we're like, okay.
250 or
250 people.
250 people is the max. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're like, okay, well, let's just move to Discord. And while we're doing that, we're like, hey, we should start a fund together and invest in YC companies that are doing Web3 projects. And then, well, hold on, why just a fund? Let's start a DAO, and we could have this greater impact of helping Web3. So it all just kind of came together somewhat sporadically or spontaneously. And this was back in September of last year, September 21. And we built the DAO, we got the Discord set up, and then we started building some products. So we built like an NFT membership. So this is one kind of unique thing we've developed is we actually have a 2-token model for our DAO. So you've got an NFT that is your membership token, and then you have the governance token that is like your voting power.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and a DAO can be many things, right?
Yes.
In that sense, decentralized autonomous organization, you have to be a YC alumni.
That's right.
And you somehow you have to make sure that the YC alumni is the YC alumni, right?
Yes.
I mean, so there's some centralization
For sure. So
in this DAO.
Right. So the way we were doing it is we were using an internal YC forum, and you'd have to post your Discord in that internal forum, and then we'd validate you on the Discord. But so one of the first things we built was like this automatic validator that would use your Y Combinator login to be able to authenticate you into the Discord. And you'd also be able to mint your NFT.
Okay.
So it's like this automated authentication system that we built.
Yeah. And the NFT, but you couldn't sell the NFT and then to someone who's not a
non-transferable. It's
non-transferable.
a non-transferable NFT. But we've got a clever system where if you want to move wallets, you can do that.
Okay. And then you had this DAO. You said you have the NFT, which is basically just a membership card.
Token. Yeah, your membership card, exactly.
And then you have a governance token where you can vote, right?
That's right.
Is there also a value capture token?
No, so the governance token is non-transferable as well, and it's just for being able to vote on different proposals. So our goal for this DAO is to further Web3, and obviously that's kind of a blurry goal, but the way that we see it is one of the biggest impacts that we can have in driving the Web3 movement forward is taking Web2 founders and sending them down the rabbit hole of Web3. And we're already seeing this. So we're having lots of entrepreneurs who are curious about Web3 but don't know where to start. They're joining the DAO, and their NFT, their membership NFT, is the first NFT that they've minted. So they're getting an education into Web3 through the DAO. We're giving them like this safe space to try stuff out. They've got a forum to talk to people, to ask questions, and learn about it so that they can actually build products in Web3. So I think that's the biggest value of the DAO right now, is we're helping founders to get into Web3 when they haven't been onboarded to it yet.
So YC alumni are in the DAO, only they are allowed,
right.
But you are investing also only in YC companies that are in Web3.
So we have a separate organization. It's that we're calling it the Orange Fund, and the Orange Fund is doing investments in Web3 companies. At first, the first fund was just in YC crypto companies, but now we're expanding that. We'll fund any Web3 company that's interesting. And so we've got this separate organization that does that, but I think it's something like 99, almost 100% of the LPs in this fund are YC alumni.
There you would allow people from.
We are starting to
fund.
open it up to outside LPs, just so we've got more funds to be able to deploy and help grow the space even further.
But that fund, is it also a Web3 project, or is that something, like tagged on let's say AngelList is famous for setting up funds quickly. Is it based on?
It's a standard GP LP structure, a standard fund structure.
I've never raised a fund. Tell me, what does it mean, LG?
Yeah, sorry, you've got general partners and limited partners. The limited partners are committing the funds, and the general partners are making the investment decisions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the DAO and the fund are separate, or could you vote with the governance tokens from the DAO? Basically, the limited partners are voting on which projects they should invest.
So there are a lot of regulations around this, and we're being very careful to not cross any of those lines. The DAO is not advising the fund on what to invest, but the DAO is obviously working with a lot of interesting companies there, getting to see cool companies. Seeing people who are doing new things. Obviously, all the alumni are now working on new projects in Web3, and so just knowing the same people, these connections are made where the fund can go and invest.
I'm interested in this kind of crowdfunding component of everybody can be a venture capitalist, because that's what brought me to crypto. Like this frustration to see cool stuff happening and kind of knowing what's going to, or thinking to know what's going to be big and not being able to be taking part of the upside. So the DAO in this setup isn't capturing that. You still have to roll over to this other fund and somehow be an accredited investor, for instance, or I don't know, what do you need to have?
That's right. Yeah. So
to be able to invest.
We created this special fund structure, and I'm not fully up to speed on the regulations here. We're having someone else who set this up, but it's something like we can accept 250 investors. We have to have a certain percentage, like maybe 95% of them be accredited, but there's a few slots for unaccredited investors. It is still very, very difficult, especially in the US. I mean, the SEC has a lot of regulations around this, so we have to be very careful around that.
Yeah. And are you a general partner of the fund?
I'm not a general partner of the fund. No. So Ben Ha, my co-founder in Origami, he's working on the fund side along with Don Ho, who's also a co-founder of Origami.
Okay, and that's a smooth roll over to Origami. So what is Origami?
So Origami, and we just got the name a few weeks ago actually. It all just came together really spontaneously as well. So after we set up the Orange DAO, we got over something like 10 to 15% of YC alumni joined within a few months. Mm-hmm. So tons of traction really early. We've got a number of projects ongoing. Like the engagement of this DAO just came together so quick and so fast that we had a number of other organizations reach out to us wanting advice on how to do the same for their community. And when the first two people reached out, we're like, okay, we can share notes, happy to do that. But we've had over 24 different organizations reach out to us, wanting us to start a DAO for them.
Can you make an example? What is the one which you thought this one is exactly what a perfect client, let's say, that they need a DAO?
So it's affinity networks. It's groups of people that have this shared connection, this shared level of trust, right? Whether it's a alumni association or an investment portfolio, these types of affinities give you that trust to be able to just come in and work together in a way that I think other DAOs don't have. Other DAOs, you're working with strangers on the internet. They might literally scam you. Another member of the DAO. It is fully decentralized, and it could be anyone on the internet.
But couldn't it then just be, and that's the issue I'm trying to wrap my head around. I think the DAO is such this fluffy word. Yes. But couldn't it just be like a Discord group where you say only YC people are in there? Because it doesn't seem like the NFT, you cannot transfer it. Right. So it's just something cool to have, and the governance token is just voting. So for me, it doesn't need to be decentralized and on the blockchain.
But that voting is important though, right? Because that decides the direction of the DAO. And so the people who are working on projects, the people who are engaged in the DAO, they actually get more governance tokens. So now they have more of a say in the future decisions of the DAO. So it rewards engagement. And that's something that you don't have in affinity networks that don't have a DAO. You don't have this rewarding of incentives.
But there are many message boards that offer kind of gamifications with points. You mentioned Reddit, upvotes, downvotes, karma. Mm-hmm. You don't really necessarily need it on the blockchain. And since you cannot transfer it or sell it, it's kind of like, what's the point?
Sure, and who knows what it will be in the future, right? Right now it's non-transferable. That may change in the future, right? It's up. That would be up to a DAO vote. Right now it's a governance token solely, and just serves that purpose. But we might say, look, there's benefit in having a tradable governance token, right? So the DAO can choose to make that decision down the road.
Where I see the value would be, you would have a token that captures the value. Mm-hmm. That has a secondary market that I could buy into the Orange DAO,
sure.
or at least not be part of it if that's the rule, but at least I would like to hold that token and have the upside of those companies that you're starting. I think that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Is that the dream, or is that just you obviously know that this is currently not possible because of SEC, but do you think we're going that way, or do you think it's just too hard at the moment due to regulations?
The regulations do make it really tough. I would love to be in a world where that's possible, and maybe someday that will be possible. But the SEC makes this very difficult, and we have to play within the rules. So.
But if you would make it fully decentralized, then you would be an anon. Mm-hmm. Like nobody would know who you are. You could kind of do it, right? Have you thought about going down that path?
Yeah, if you break the law and no one knows you did it, then I I think there's value to having some type of identity attached to it. I would say that we are fully decentralized, but we're definitely not anonymous, right? And because of that, like, you can't go around breaking SEC laws and expect to get away with it. Certainly not forever. We have to play within the rule book, and so that's what we're going to do.
All right. And now this company Origami, what is the problem you're solving for these companies?
Right. So we're building the same structure for other communities, right? Building the ability where the most engaged members, the ones who are contributing to the purpose of the DAO the most, they are able to accumulate a bigger say in what the DAO does. You can think of it kind of like the karma points on Reddit, right? But it's happening on the blockchain. People can create proposals for things. We're creating these incentives for a more tightly knit community.
Do you, when you say, because it seems to me it's like a lot of tools that you use, like
right.
let's say Discord and message boards.
That's right.
Where you have polls, etc. Is that all part of the value proposition that you build this software, or you plug into this other? It doesn't really matter if they use
right.
this message board or this Discord server or.
To us, the tooling doesn't matter, right? We help these organizations navigate this difficult field because, there's very few people who have actually started a DAO today, and it's difficult. And right now, there's actually a lot of zombie DAOs that have made their token tradable or done things that would put them on the wrong side of the SEC laws. So now, like, that token will never be traded on say, Coinbase or any exchange because they violated SEC rules. And once you do that, okay, well now this won't be traded on an exchange. Like, how is this going to accumulate any value? It can't. So we help these existing organizations, Web2 organizations, to navigate these waters to make sure that they stay clear of SEC violations, for one. But also, how do you actually engage your community? There's a lot of DAOs that just die out because they don't have any engagement. And so, we've found a lot of different things that you have to do to keep that engagement up. One thing that we do is we've got a cadence. Like, every week we do a town hall with Orange DAO. We've got a regular cadence for voting. So you don't want people to just get burnt out on all this stuff, right? I shouldn't have to be in the Discord 24/7 to know what's going on in the DAO, right? There should be this role for more reserved members who just hold some governance tokens that they may vote, but they're not in the day-to-day of the DAO. And then you have the more engaged members who are.
Mm-hmm. So the issue is basically like every community online. There are some people who are very engaged and who do
right.
a lot of work. You have to keep them engaged and motivated and kind of incentivized. Mm-hmm. And then you have like probably a large majority who's just there consuming and who receive a lot of value from it or are drifting off.
Right.
And you're saying that's something that Origami solves as well.
Yes, because the other thing too is that you're able to surface ideas from anyone, right? I mean, you think of like a typical university alumni group today. Most of the ideas are coming top down, right? It's the university management that's actually kind of organizing a lot of the alumni events and putting these things together. Once you have this DAO structure, there's the incentive for this bottom-up approach to getting new ideas, starting new projects, new initiatives. These are all possible with a DAO structure. And so setting it up that way, you're able to get the best of your community and really like take full advantage of your community.
But I still struggle with the same thing. I mean, you say, okay, you are engaged to let's say, alumni club.
Right.
So people who are alumni can get in and they get governance tokens.
That's right.
And what would be the incentive to get more of those tokens?
Right.
By doing events, by doing initiatives.
Right. So it can depend on the way that we set up the DAO. For some DAOs, we might set up like an exchange where we do have this separate fund and DAO structure where the carry from the fund that would normally go to the GPs goes into the treasury of the DAO.
Okay, now that's getting interesting.
Right. So that's one thing we could do. For memberships that maybe aren't subject to SEC regulations, non-US persons, and maybe we could make it tradable from day one. It really depends on the regulatory environment that we're dealing with. But the difficulty here is like universities, VC portfolios, these organizations want to capture the value from their community, and they don't know how today. They don't know how to set up the DAOs, or they're seeing that there's this massive graveyard of DAOs that have tried and failed, and we can help them navigate those dangerous waters of how do you avoid SEC violations, how do you actually get a DAO that has engagement and then it has value.
Cool. And you mentioned before the CEO of this new project of Origami. His name is Ben Hu.
Ben Ha.
Ben Ha,
Yes.
not to be mistaken for Ben Hur. That's what he says. Ben Hur. How is it called? Wikipedia. Like the.
Oh yes.
I don't know how to pronounce it properly. We in German we would say Ben Hur.
Okay, yeah.
So he seems to be quite an interesting character.
He is, yeah. We kind of refer to him as like the godfather of DAOs, or the DAO whisperer.
The DAO whisperer. But
yeah.
he's also the OG meme lord.
He is the OG meme lord, absolutely. Yeah.
He is the CEO of cheeseburgers.com.
That's right.
What is that exactly? It's like a viral 9gag.
Yeah, it was a media company, and they had all these different media sites that posted a lot of meme content. Okay. Yeah, he is the OG meme lord. Absolutely.
And you can make a lot of money doing this by ads or.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to ask him on that. I guess you can look on Wikipedia and see how those businesses have fared. I think they've done quite well. There's definitely a lot of appetite on the internet for memes. But yeah, he's been very into Web3 and DAOs, and I mean, he was the one who really had the vision for Orange DAO and
so he was in YC as well.
Yeah. So his last company, so after Cheeseburger, he started Social Construct, which was trying to do like a shared living spaces, and they were doing that right in the middle of the pandemic, which made it very, very difficult. So from that, he got really into Web3 and particularly into DAOs. That's when we started Orange DAO. And there was demand for origami, so we started a company around that, and I've been building it since.
Cool. And how did you meet? Is it just from this WhatsApp group, or because you're here alone? The office is not here in Rio, right? It's the head
the
office.
office is in the metaverse.
The office is in the metaverse. So you're working here. He's probably working in the US.
Yeah. I mean, we're all over. So I'm here in Rio. One of us is in Milan. We got San Francisco, Colorado. We are fully decentralized across the globe.
Yeah. And you have been fundraising.
Yeah. We're fundraising right now. What we've been doing right now, we're basically raising a pre-seed, and we're fully allocated on that.
All right, pre-seed.
Pre-seed. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to get a little bit. What can you tell us about valuations or? Because I know right now that's the hot thing, right? I know. You rode that wave perfectly, right?
Yeah.
As a kite surfer, now the wind is blowing in the DAO direction.
Well, yeah. I mean, yes and no, right? I mean, it's we're in a crypto bear market right now. Like it's been red for weeks.
The whole yeah, it's true.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, on one hand, Like if 2020 was the year of DeFi and 2021 was the year of NFTs, I think 2022 is going to be the year of the DAO. There's tons of companies building DAO tooling right now. There are none that are primarily going after Web2 organizations. That's what's unique about Origami, is we're not helping crypto companies. We're helping Web2 companies to get onboarded to Web3.
And you also operate kind of in this traditional Web2 way. You build a company that is you fundraise and you give equity, so there's no token, right? The Origami
That's
token.
right. No, we are we're a Delaware C corp. We're a standard startup structure there because again we're working with companies, and companies don't want to it's difficult for a company to work with a DAO right now, right? It's such a new structure. So we're trying to be familiar to these Web2 organizations to be able to help onboard them.
And they pay you your services just like a software as a service company as well.
So we actually, I'd say we have more of, I know this example has been a bit overused, but somewhat of like the YC of DAOs. So right, we're partnering with these organizations to help them build their DAO. And so yeah, we take a portion of those tokens, and we're only successful if they're successful, right?
So the tokens, if you take the tokens, you're paid by the tokens, so they need to capture value somehow down the road. You want to be able to sell them on Coinbase potentially one day.
Potentially one day, yeah. It depends on the structure. It depends. There's ways you have to structure it so you don't run awry with the regulations. But yeah, so it's partially token based. We do take a cash component as well.
What are you building on? What is the tech stack? Is it on Ethereum or is it on Solana?
Initially we're building for the Ethereum ecosystem. We are going to be chain agnostic. Right? We don't care what blockchain you use. We'll have our recommendations per se, but we want to support you, right? So, if it's a Solana community, we're not going to set them up on Ethereum, right?
Okay, so you use existing protocols.
That's
and
right.
kind of tie it all together as a bundle,
connected
with also your knowledge and consulting and gamification and all that stuff.
That's right. If we were to try and build the full stack for DAOs, right? I mean, that's a huge undertaking. There are entire companies just built around one section of it, whether it's voting or token issuance. These are big problems, and we are not trying to solve all of them.
And what is a company that is using your product or is going to use your products? What is kind of the ideal customer?
Yeah, I can't name them right now before they actually go public with their DAO, but we're working with some sports teams. We're working with different accelerators, VC portfolios, some crypto protocols.
Let's go with the sports teams. What is something that you could do with a DAO that you cannot do currently? Let's dream a little bit. What would be cool?
Yeah. So you can engage your fans on a much more deep level, right? So what about you're redesigning the jersey, right? Imagine if you're a fan, you could actually come up with a design that gets used, right? Anyone can create it, and then the DAO gets to vote on it. And if you have more voting power, you have more say in what your team will do. That's pretty cool, right? We love to have the fans have that much closer and tighter connection with their sports teams.
Yeah, that's interesting. And now let's change the topic. What are some controversial things that you believe in crypto?
Controversial things that I believe in crypto.
Or some hot takes?
I don't know if this is a hot take anymore, but I don't think there's going to be one winner. I'm not a Bitcoin maximalist. I'm not an Ethereum maximalist. I think we're going to live in a multi-chain future.
What do you think about Bitcoin?
They've been around the longest. I think the craziest stat for Bitcoin is that when Bitcoin was around, the euro had been around for 10 years or something. So now Bitcoin has existed for longer than the euro had existed when Bitcoin came out. Kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, the Lindy effect, right? If something has lived a long time,
right,
it's probably going to live a longer time. We don't give financial advice on this channel.
Yes, of course.
However, what would be something that you could recommend for somebody who is joining now and wants to get exposure to crypto?
I think the best way to get into crypto is you got to learn it and just play around with it, right? See what's new and what's interesting. Anything that you hear from me right now, it's going to be obsolete in a month or 2 weeks even.
True.
So, I think the best advice to give anyone who's new to this space is go out and learn it. Go on rabbithole.gg and play around with these protocols. Learn it. You got to play around with it. You got to get familiar with it.
How did you fall into the crypto rabbit hole?
Well, it's funny actually. So when we were going through YC in summer of 14, we were the Bitcoin batch. We had all these different Bitcoin companies back then, and so Stacks was in our batch for YC.
What is that, Stacks?
Stacks, they're building smart contracts for Bitcoin. So the Citycoin initiatives is run on Stacks. They're trying to replicate the Ethereum ecosystem on
really?
Bitcoin. Yeah,
wow,
yeah, with smart contracts.
Okay, because I just hear Bitcoin people talking about everything is possible in Bitcoin, but I don't really see much going on there. But 2014, they were already building
they were
the
building
tooling.
it. Yeah, yeah.
How is that going?
I'm not sure. I've only used it a few times. So, yeah, anyways, going through the batch, it was funny. Whenever we'd have a speaker come in, they'd always ask, "Oh, what do you think of Bitcoin?" And all of us, everyone else is just kind of like, "Oh, this question again." Like, okay, we didn't think anything of it, right? And this is back when Bitcoin was like $250 each, and they're all saying, "Oh, you guys should buy some Bitcoin, blah blah blah," and we're like, "Yeah, okay." Bad decisions there. Only we listened.
Yeah.
They knew.
They did.
Yeah.
Hey, in 2014 was also the Ethereum ICO.
I believe it was. Yeah. That's right.
Nobody talked about Ethereum at YC.
I'm sure they were. They definitely were. I was just not in those conversations. Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, back then, crypto was not like a big thing, everyone was talking about, AI is the future, VR, but crypto wasn't as clear as I think it is today, where now it's like, okay, but that's the direction things are going.
When did VR really became and AI like as big as everybody thought? Could it also happen to crypto that, hey, crypto will fizzle out and it's just like we are in this fever dream right now, and
it could
in 10 years.
It absolutely could, crypto. Right? I think a good measure for this is like, where are the best minds going to work? What was it, 10, 15 years ago? They were going to work at like Google, Facebook, right? That's where the innovation was happening. And I think what we're seeing now is they're moving to Web3. The best developers are learning how to write code for crypto, and they're moving into these projects. That, I think, is a very strong leading indicator of what the next big innovation is going to look like.
Definitely. What do you say is currently the killer application that you want to see, besides DAOs?
I'm not sure we're at that point yet. What we need is more infrastructure, right? And the Web 2 example of this is, imagine trying to build a startup without AWS, without Amazon Web Services, without being able to just spin up a server with a click of a button, right? You had to go out, you had to buy actual servers, set them up. It required this whole other level of knowledge just to be able to then go and create your own idea, right? So that infrastructure is really, really important. And I think we're still in the infrastructure stage for Web3.
Definitely. However, back then people built all their services without AWS. I mean,
they did. Yeah. They still made it happen.
They made both.
But it didn't really explode until that infrastructure was there. I mean, you think like ENS, Filecoin, they were in our batch as well. Yeah. So, these things are coming, and, some of them, they're being created, but we need more of this infrastructure that makes it easy for anyone with an idea to come in and build it.
How many % of new YC companies are currently crypto?
It's a great question.
What do you think?
I have no idea, honestly. YC's done a pretty good job on I mean, they've like Coinbase, OpenSea. They've had some good picks on the crypto side. But yeah, I mean, they did notably miss MetaMask. MetaMask had applied to YC and they said no.
I thought that's something of Joseph Lubin's Consensus.
Yeah, Consensus applied to YC.
Okay. Probably they denied because they knew they have already funding secured due to Lubin, right? I mean, this guy.
No, he shared it on Twitter that it was just their rejection letter from YC. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
So, YC missed out on that one. So, I think they have to keep evolving to be able to really capture this new Web3 market. They need to bring on Web3 partners. I think they honestly have a little catching up to do.
And the Orange DAO is kind of a danger for them as well.
No. Well, we're not trying to compete with them. I mean, the reason that we have the affinity that we do, the reason that we can all work together is because we all went through this program. Our goal is to help new companies to go through Y Combinator. Right? I mean, it still provides tremendous value if you're new to starting a company. They really give you tons of resources there, and the network is so valuable. Yeah. So we'd recommend anyone that if you're just starting a company, you should definitely go through YC. And we as the Orange DAO, we can help you get in. We can write you recommendations to get you into YC. But we're not trying to compete with YC. We can't start up a new accelerator and or at least, that's not in the works. That's not in the plans.
You also have quite some gadgets I've seen.
Gadgets.
Yeah. You have a VR goggle, right?
Yep. Yeah, I got the Oculus.
The Oculus. You also have you also track your sleep with, what is it called? The ring?
I was using the Oura Ring. Now I've got an 8 Sleep.
Is that the mattress that cools you down?
Yeah, the mattress topper that cycles cool or hot water through the mattress.
I heard about that one on the Tim Ferriss.
It's
an ad
game
on
changer.
Is it really?
It's amazing. Yeah.
And you need water. It's not running water, obviously. It's just like a tank of water.
It's a tank of water that flows through these pipes here, right?
And just a couple of liters.
Yep. And it flows through the bed and can make it really cold. But the cool thing is that it'll track your stage of your sleep. And so like once you fall asleep, it'll warm it up a bit so you don't get cold in the middle of the night. And then it can wake you up with a thermal alarm.
Do you still need microwave air conditioning?
It depends. I mean, if it's really hot, right now, Rio summers, yeah, because the room just gets really stuffy. But I mean, back in like October, November, I wasn't using the AC at all.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Do you do a lot of self-optimization?
Yes. Yeah, like I told you at the beginning, it's like I love to hack on stuff and I like to live in the future.
Okay, but do you sometimes have people telling you, hey, you're a tech bro, or kind of like judge you in that way?
I don't know. I don't think I fit the category of tech bro. I mean, maybe tech nerd, yeah.
What's the difference?
I don't know. I feel like the stereotype of like tech bro is like, the sales tech guy, I don't know.
All right. And one more thing I would like to ask you. Since we're sitting in Rio, and you grew up in Chicago, you have been working in San Francisco and London. Yeah. How is Rio comparing to those places? Is it a good place to be working?
Well, for one, there's no snow, so that's a huge plus for me. I think I've had enough snow for a lifetime. I love being surrounded by nature. One thing about Rio is it has more urban national parks than any other city. So you're surrounded by nature. We got these birds flying up here, looking at the mountains and all the trees, the green. Like, I love that. I love feeling like I'm in a forest, but I have all the benefits of a city. I've got great restaurants. I can walk down to the beach. You've got like 40 miles of protected bike lanes. It's great to be active here. The culture is very active. We were at the beach at like 7 a.m. and it's packed with people on a Monday morning working out. You don't see that in many places. Yeah. That's very rare, and I like the energy here. And
compared to San Francisco, because a lot of people are on Twitter, and I've never been to San Francisco myself, they're complaining about what's happening to San Francisco, feeling unsafe.
It's sad. It's really sad what's happening there. I feel less safe in San Francisco than I do in Rio, which gets a bad rep. I feel safer here than in San Francisco. The city has really gone downhill tremendously. It's really sad because it's in such a cool place too. You've got the ocean, you've got the bay, you've got mountains. If you want to go skiing, you got that a few hours away. I mean, it's geographically, it should be perfect. It's just the state and city governments have just executed so poorly. Like they literally hate tech. And so, they're pushing everyone out. And
how is Rio ranked on the nomad list?
It's probably middle of the road. All in all, for me at least, like working with people in the US for a time zone basis, for what I like to do, doing water sports, like this is a great spot to be for me. So for me, I like it. It's an awesome place to be, and I'm really happy to be here.
Definitely. Let's do the finishing words.
Sure. Okay.
What is the call to action, basically?
Yeah, I guess, they can follow me on Twitter. @ Matt Voska.
@ Matt Voska. I'll link it up.
Okay, so cool. Sweet.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. This is great.
If you are still listening, chances are that you liked this episode. DeFi is not just me, it's also you, the listener. And growing this podcast is seriously one of the toughest challenges I've ever undertaken. It's so hard to grow an audience. But each day, there are more listeners joining, and together we can spread the word about DeFi by giving it 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or wherever you are listening. Send this episode to a friend who might be interested. check out the website, visit defier.money and click on subscribe to get the new episodes and in the future also blog posts directly into your inbox. Also make sure to follow me on Twitter at DefierMoney. All of this helps so we can continue to produce more episodes more frequently and get the most interesting guests that you deserve. Good night and see you soon.